Hello everybody. This video will feature an amazing guest. This is Zeke, my dog. I don't know if you guys have met him or not. But yeah, he's tagged along for this little ride. He's just sticking his head out the window. It's gonna be one of the rare occasions that you see my window down, just because I'm parked up nice and high in a spot that doesn't have much interference besides the birds singing. So I do want to set a disclaimer that this video is going to kind of address some sensitive topics. I kind of want to go into the discussion and topic of suicide and suicide prevention, suicide awareness, and just overall just kind of talk about suicide. I think that this is a very, very difficult topic for a lot of people to talk about. I think that there's a stigma around suicide, that it's almost shameful to be suicidal or to have suicidal thoughts about yourself, and that you should keep those to yourself. I also think that since it makes some people uncomfortable to talk about it, they don't typically talk about suicide. And so that further feeds into the stigma of shamefulness around the topic. So that's what I'm trying to do here, is basically just pull everyone's walls down and make this a safe, conversational, comfortable spot to talk about suicide and really just go over it. So real quick, getting into suicide, I just want to give you guys kind of, my backstory and how I have dealt with suicide. I, like 7 months ago, I was experiencing very, very severe depression. Probably 11 months ago, I started self-harming, and I really was just struggling to combat with this. I had my girlfriend at the time, who she was the only one I really talked to this about, would help me through that, and really sit there and listen to me talk about my struggles. But I did self-harm for a little bit, and it wasn't anything too crazy, not to take away from the severity, because self-harm in any way, shape, or form is very an important thing to talk about. It wasn't anything like too concerning. I wasn't doing it with like the intention of committing suicide. It was more so of a way to just blow off the steam somehow. So I did that for a little bit, and then I started to really struggle with my mental health. And things got really bad. I started pulling away from my friends, and eventually it started interfering with the relationship between my girlfriend and I at that time. And I think that's what really made me want to kind of I started to become more and more suicidal. And so I went home from school one day, and I was just, not to get, I don't want to like get into the details or anything, but basically I had plans to take my own life that day. I didn't really like try to take my own life, but like I was kind of testing it, I guess. I don't want to like get into specifics or anything, just because like I don't want to put that out on YouTube or anything, and like trigger someone or really like go into anything crazy. So I'm not gonna go into any details. But basically, I was planning on taking my life, but it wasn't necessarily an attempt. Which I told my girlfriend about, and she made me tell my mom, and that's how I landed into the inpatient facility, which kind of opened a new perspective for me. And I really got to talk to some people that really opened my eyes on the whole dilemma with suicide and stuff like that. But that's basically a little bit about me. That's kind of why, not necessarily why I got into this, but my reason, one of my motivations for getting into this is just to help others out that were, dealing with similar stuff that I was. So that's my little backstory. And now I just kind of want to talk about, like how to deal with this, and yeah, just have a little conversation with you guys. So if you are suicidal or battling thoughts of self-harm, suicidal ideations, stuff like that, please seek help. Like, I know that everyone says it. I know that it makes it sound like it's this big deal. It's really not. Now that I'm in a good space, seeking help has never been easier. And I know that it can be very scary and big, but genuinely, like, it doesn't, I think a lot of people view seeking help as like sticking this big flag on their back that says, I'm suicidal, look at me, when that's not really the case. I think looking at, seeking help can genuinely be as simple as hanging out with one of your friends and saying, hey man, like, it's okay if I talk to you for a little bit. I've just had a lot on my mind. Like, because you would be surprised on how many people are genuinely wanting and willing to be there for you. And even if you happen to not be able to find someone who can, there's always helplines. There's always online tools and resources that you can use. There's genuinely everything. So please, please, please seek help and communicate to others if you are having suicidal thoughts or ideations. That is not something that you should deal with by yourself. Vocalize things, because if you don't, like, I vocalized something in my safe space at the time, and if I hadn't, then I probably would have kept spiraling and spiraling and getting worse and worse. So I'm very grateful that I did. I'm very grateful that I'm here now. And that's kind of the common theme that I've found with a lot of suicide survivors, or people who have grown from suicidal or suicideations and stuff, is that they're grateful for life and they're glad that they didn't do it. And again, like, I'm not trying to sound cliche, but there really is more to life than what meets the eye. And sometimes the struggles that you're going through seem very, very large in the moment, and they are very, very real and large. But that doesn't mean that you should punish yourself for, taking your own life. I think that isn't fair to you. You deserve to live. You deserve to be here. So I please seek help if you do feel that way. Help, again, doesn't have to be this big elaborate thing. It can just be a conversation. You should never feel ashamed for being suicidal or feeling suicidal thoughts. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing or an okay thing, if that makes sense, but it is not a bad thing. It is not a shameful thing. You should not feel shame. You should not feel guilty for feeling that way. You are struggling and you need to get help. You are struggling and you're in a hard place and you don't know how to comprehend those emotions. So your brain kind of works against you, and that shouldn't be something that you should feel embarrassed about. Being suicidal is not fun. It feels like there's a constant void speaking to you in the back of your head, telling you that you don't deserve to live. You punish yourself and you criticize yourself over the littlest things. You withdraw from everyone. You stop trying. You genuinely just feel like a husk of a human, and it's not fun. It's something that no person should have to go through. But unfortunately, very, very many people go through this, and there are way, way too many suicide deaths. And it is honestly sad. It is harrowing and sad, and it's just, you have to venture into self-love, and that is very much easier said than done. But loving yourself is obviously the single-handed key to battling suicide and suicidal thoughts and depression. So reach out to your support group, love yourself, practice things that can work with you and tools that you can use. But I genuinely, like, I felt so alone, and I really, really, I also struggled with suicidal thoughts like 2 or 3 years ago, which I had never told anyone before. I didn't tell anyone about it, and I just buried it and told myself to stop being a bitch and grow up and I just basically just pushed it down, all the way down for 2 years, and then it started resurfacing again. But to my male audience, you were not any less of a man for vocalizing your mental health. I don't feel like any less of a man for vocalizing my mental health. You were not weak. If anything, you were very, very strong for doing so. So please don't listen to this false thing that you are a pussy for doing it, and that you know, like, you're not cool if you feel any sort of human emotion. To my male audience, just please keep that in mind. To the ladies out there, I can't really speak on much. I don't know what it's like in that, in that realm with mental health stigmas and stuff. I'm sure it's very similar of like, oh yeah, like you might feel judged or slandered for, vocalizing any mental struggles. Again, I can't and don't really have any room to speak on what it is like for, a young woman to go through that, so I'm not really going to make much commentary. But please, like, it doesn't matter who you are, girl, boy, old, young, it doesn't matter your sexuality, your religious preference. Like, it genuinely does not matter who you are. You are a human being. You are a person here on this planet that deserves to live. And I genuinely, like, it is a very depressing topic, and it can get very sad, but we need to obviously work on destigmatizing it and making it more of a just everyday conversation of like, hey man, like, how you doing? Like, make sure you check up on your friends, ask them how they're doing, and don't try and keep it very surface level. An example of this might be like, hey man, how are you doing? And your friend might say like, oh yeah, I'm doing good. And you're just like, are you sure? Not are you sure as it and like you're doubting them, but like, how are you? Like, are you really okay? Like, is everything going well? Are you struggling at all? Like, obviously don't make it feel like an interrogation. If they don't seem like they want to talk about it, don't make them talk about it, but just let them know that you're a safe spot to listen, safe space to talk about things, and that you were there for them. So, you are not alone, like, at all. Every person here has their purpose. Every person here has someone who cares about them, even if it's just a little black and white rat. But I really, really am so grateful for you guys. I love and support you guys. Thank you so much for loving and supporting me. If you like this content, dropping a sub would mean the world to me. I'm not trying to panhandle, but I want to help as many people as I can, and doing this feels like my purpose. So I would love to keep doing this, and this is what I want to do, so I want to help you guys out. But I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in and listening to me kind of rant, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Stay blessed.